Hello and welcome to the studio where we paint away the stress of everyday life. But today I'm doing a quick tip. Now I want to talk about retarders because one of the questions I get asked more than any is how do you slow down the drying time of acrylic paint? Well, there's a few different methods, but before I start to waffle, quick introduction and then we'll get straight into the video.
It's time to learn with our friend Clive. So grab your brush, have a great time. And don't forget to click subscribe.
So thank you very much for taking the time to watch the introduction there. Don't forget to subscribe. Subscriptions is free, absolutely free. All you do is help support my channel. And don't forget to give me that thumbs up, because all that does is tell YouTube how interesting or how useful this video is. So please, 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 please give me a thumbs up as well. Okay, so retarders. Now there's many different types of retarders. The reason that we use retarders in acrylic paint is basically just to slow down the drying time of the paint, because we don't want our paint to to dry rapidly, and that's the problem with acrylic paint. Now, as you can see, I've got a little bit of blue paint. Let's just put a bit of blue paint there. This is just raw paint straight out of the tube without any moisture added to it whatsoever. So when we come to paint that, especially with a thick paint, you'll find that we have a little bit of difficulty with it trying to get it onto the canvas because it's quite thick. So what we tend to do is we tend to get some water and add water to our paint. Now that all that does is thin it down and allow it to flow a little bit better. There you go. So you can see it also thins down the paint. So it means the more water we add to a paint, the quicker that paint is going to evaporate, because water evaporates quite rapidly. Now, what retarder does is actually, in a layman's terms, is thicken up the water. It stops the evaporation. Let me just wash my brush very quickly because I'm not organized today. It stops the evaporation of the water. So if there's something in the water to, in layman's terms, to think about, if there's something in the water to thicken it so it doesn't evaporate so quick, then it's going to do the job. Now there's a number of different things you can buy on the market. You can buy things like a fluid retarder like this. This just happens to be a make that I use, or I used to use, but I do use the paints. And what you need to do with this, you can either use it neat, or you can just put a few drops of that into the water like that. And all it does is mix with the water, and all it does then is do exactly what I said. It just allows the water to be less able to evaporate. That's all it does. It just allows it to be less able to evaporate. You can add water. Add it to water, I mean. You can add it to water just to stretch it out a bit. So that's fine like that. You only need a small amount of water, really, to paint like that. There we are. See? It's a lovely way. And that does take... That's dry already. I don't know if you've noticed, but that first bit of paint I put on there is dry. This is starting to evaporate now. And you could see it's still wet there, but it's dry in the center, and this then is still active, obviously. So I just want to wash my brush again, and let's disregard that because we don't want that. So what can we do? Well, we can just use plain old tap water. There we just put a bit of plain old tap water into a little container like that. So the first thing that we've got available to us, where you can go to a store, a food store, a bakery store, anything like that. You want to try and get hold of some glycerin. There we are, vegetable glycerin. Okay, it's an extract basically. So we need a little pipette. We need to get some of that out of there. If I can get some of it out, because it's quite thick. There we are. And we put a few drops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drops of that into a little bit of water. And that, guess what? That is going to do exactly the same job. Exactly the same job as a fluid retarder. So and that's all it is, basically. So we need to mix that with the brush, and there we've got our retarder mix. There we go. So let's just get a bit of paint. I'm going to try and keep these paints separate because I don't want to mix the retarders together. There we are. And then we'll paint that on, and the vegetable glycerin is going to act with the water and stop it evaporating so much. There we are. So we got vegetable glycerin, a few drops of that into some water, and you can make your own retarder. Now you need to play around. You need to play around with some of these mixtures. So I'm not going to be responsible for any damage or any problems caused with your paintings, but I'm just giving you my advice and telling you what you can use to stop the drying time of your paint from being too quick. The other things that we've got available to us, where did I put that? I put it here somewhere. Where did I put it? There it is. Is this little stuff, this stuff here? Let me just get rid of that. There's one I made earlier. There we go. The other thing that they do use, and I know for a fact that they do use in acrylics paint making, is something called polyurethane glycol. Now you can buy this, but this is a glycol, polyurethane glycol, and again you just need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drops, something like that. Just a little squirt. A little bottle like that would last you so long. Just think about that compared to the price of something like that. So I'm giving trade secrets away. There we go. So there we go. Polyurethane glycol and water, and let's just mix a bit of that together. So that's dry. This is started to dry. You can see that's still wet with the vegetable glycerin. And we go back into the polyurethane glycol now. We don't want to use too much. The more polyurethane glycol you put in, the less chances your acrylic paint to dry in. So it's going to be active for a lot longer than you think. So be very careful when you're playing around with additives to paints and things like that. Instead of buying something off the shelf, you need to be aware that sometimes you can add things and it can cause food problems. But what I'm telling you, the glycerin, the polyurethane glycol, it all works. It really does, and it's been used for years and years and years and years by professional artists that I know of that work exclusively with acrylics. So these are honest to truthful tips that do work. Now, there are things on the market called gel retarders. There's one I made earlier. Well, I made this a while ago actually. This is a gel retarder. So you could see if I put a bit of that there. Come on. Whoops. It's jelly. Wow. Gel retarders. That's amazing, isn't it? Because you can add that to paint as well. That. Look at that. That's a gel retarder. And of course, you can actually add a little bit of water to that now. There we go. Just tap your brush in there, and that goes on as well. And that can slow down your drying time. That's a lot thicker. That's a lot thicker. A gel retarder. You can see it's quite jelly. It's like jelly. There we go. It's a gel retarder. Shall I tell you a secret? Because I'm not going to tell you any more about retarders, but there we are. But you can see that's the gel retarder, etc. And you can watch them dry if you want to. I'm not going to do anything more with retarders as far as painting is concerned now. I just want to talk a little bit more about retarders. So basically, we've got fluid retarders, which are basically water with polyurethane glycol, or even some glycerin, which was used extensively in paint manufacturing before polyurethane glycol come along. So they used to use glycerin in acrylic mixes, but now they've changed the formulas. So they've actually come up with an idea now. Oh, let's make a gel retarder. How can we make a gel retarder? Well, basically all that is water, polyurethane glycol, or water and glycerin mixed together with this stuff. Do you know what that is? That's silica. This is silica powder. This powder, when mixed with water, there we go. I'll just put a bit of that there like that. Can you see that? This is silica powder. It's a very fine powder that you can buy, and I play around with all these different things. So silica when added to water, thickens water. And that's all things like, let me think, you know, sexual lubricant. Ooh, Mrs. Sexual lubricant, KY jelly, hair gel. It's all, hair gel is basically water and silica with a little bit of perfumes and colorants and stuff like that. So that's all it is water and silica. So you add about 15 grams of that to a litre, a litre of water, and get a paint mixer on a drill and spin it in nice and slowly, because it can go lumpy. You've got to be careful how you mix this. But you can make a litre bottle of thick, what I call thick water. Is basically just like a hair gel or KY jelly, as I've said. And then, but what you do then is you mix the polyurethane glycol with the water, or the glycerin with the water. Then you add the silica to that. Then you mix it up, and then you can make this gel retarder. Does that make sense? Because I'm not going to tell you the exact ratios, because you know, what works for me is not necessarily what works for you. But I can certainly look into that in the future. But that's basically what's in there. It's a water mix of polyurethane glycol and water, or glycerin and water mixed with silica powder. There you are. So that is what gel retarders are, and that is what retarders are. And basically it stops the evaporation of water by slowing the evaporation of the water down, in order to allow us to paint a lot longer with the paints that we've got. You can see the gel retarder is still wet. I can rub that with my finger. That's been on there for quite a while. This is the I think this is the polyurethane glycol. No, this was the yeah, this was the polyurethane glycol. Again, this was still wet. Just cleaning my finger off. This was the glycerin. A little bit tacky. It's getting tacky. Look, it's getting tacky. The glycerin does make your paints a bit sticky, so be aware of that. And then you can see these paints are basically dry. There we go. These paints are basically dry. There's a little bit of wet there where it's thicker. So don't forget, where you paint thick paint, it's going to take a lot longer to evaporate. And that's all gel retarders and liquid retarders are. So have a bit of fun. Experiment. You never know until you try. So don't forget, see me again for a quick tip on a Friday. Bye-bye. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget that thumbs up. Bye.